So, Namaskar, welcome everyone. This is Ravi Gupta. I am CEO and founder of Elets Techno Media Private Limited and also the editor in chief of Digital Learning magazine, which is India's and Asia's first magazine on focusing on ICT in education. We started this in 15 years back. And I welcome our speakers, uh, Professor Rajat Gupta, who is a director of National Institute of Technology, AJWAL. Welcome, Professor Rajat. Thanks for joining us. Namaskar. We have with us Professor Amitabh Bandyopadhyay, a professor in charge innovation and incubation, IIT Kanpur. Welcome, Professor Amitabh. Namaskar. And I think we some connectivity issue and other speakers are joining in. So as they start, uh, we will start the session. And the topic of the session is global perspective, exploring the dynamics of cross-cultural collaborations in higher education. And I can see that our speaker has joined. So let me welcome Professor Shalini Gupta, Vice Chancellor of Desh Bhagat University, Patiala. Namaskar.
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 Yeah,
So,
sorry, there was some net connection. I couldn't get you.
okay, I was just starting the session and welcoming all the speakers. So, thanks for joining. So, as we start, what I will do is that I will request each of the panelists here to please give your initial remarks for about 5 minutes each on this topic of cross cross cultural collaborations in higher education, both in the Indian context and also in the global context, and how and why this is important, and how is your institution looking at these issues. And also, I will request that each of the speakers please keep your mic on mute when you are not speaking. So this will reduce the background noise. So let me start with Professor Amitabh to give his initial remarks. Yeah. Please unmute Professor Amitabh. You are on mute.
Yeah, yeah.
And Dr.
Thank you
Shalini,
for.
please go on mute, please, so that we can have clarity of noise.
Uh, First of all, thank you for inviting me to this forum. It's a very topical aspect. Uh, you know, I have spent a good part of my academic career abroad. To be precise, I lived in the US for 12 years, where I did my PhD and my postdoctoral work. And I interacted with people from a variety of background, both national background as well as academic technical background, and I do appreciate the value of cross-cultural milieu in academia. Uh, so we will elaborate more in the context of uh, uh, how R&D works in academia. Particularly, my focus will be on R&D and at in higher education. That's what I am more familiar with. But as the session progresses, I will pitch in with my life experiences and my insights. Thank you.
Fantastic. So, thank you. And may I request Professor Rajat Gupta to kindly give your initial remarks on this topic. Yeah, you are on mute, Professor Rajat, if you can unmute yourself.
Am I audible?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Ravi. Good morning and namaskar to all of you. At the very outset, I express my gratitude to Dr. Ravi for inviting me for this World Summit deliberation. I have a long association with Dr. Ravi. When I was the director of NIT Srinagar, Jammu and Kashmir, I frequently participate in World Summit. And Dr. Ravi is still continuing, although I am located at Mizoram now. Thank you for that. So far, today's topic is concerned, it is extremely relevant what Professor Amitabh Bandyopadhyay already said, that global perspective exploring the dynamics of cross-cultural collaboration in higher education. That is the need of the hour. There is no second thought of it. There is no second thought of this. Now, if you look at the new education policy 2020, in the new education policy, the focus is on for global citizen. India should produce the global citizen. Now, if you look at the present condition of Indian universities, higher universities, things are not that promising. If I quote the latest QS ranking, the QS world ranking, no university is within 100. And only three universities including IIT Delhi, Bombay, and IISc Bangalore is within 200. Now recently, the QS ranking, Asia Specific ranking has been announced. Unfortunately, in the Asia Pacific ranking also, no university is within 10. Although out of 650 universities, there are 107 universities ranked, just second to mainland China. So that is a promising thing. Now, if we examine it, why India is not in a position to come up with the top ranking, possibly there are some issues. Possibly one is that research quality. Research quality is a big issue. Although you know that regarding the research quantity, India is very high. But when you talk about the research quality, India lost in the ranking system of quality. Now, another, you see that the ranking parameters, that international faculty ratio, international student ratio, I'm just highlighting related to the topics only. International faculty ratio, international student ratio. This is lacking in our system. So if you want, means this is the need of the hour, is that as in the new education policy also, it is said that you have to have the global citizens, and our students are going abroad for higher studies. So outbound students, we have to restrict this, and we have to keep the inbound students, we have to increase. Now, once we can identify the issues, what would be the possible solutions? The possible solutions would be that recruitment of international faculty. Recruitment of international faculty. This is a challenge, because when we want to recruit international faculty with our salary package, nobody will come. So how to resolve this issue? We have to address this properly. Secondly, recruitment of international students. And that is extremely important, to recruit international students. I'm very happy to announce here is that you all know that Government of India, the Ministry of Education has launched the program of Study in India program. In the Study in India program, the greatest advantage is that we catch the meritorious foreign students and we give the fee waivers. We give the scholarship also. But these scholarships and fee waivers are to be met by the institute, not by the government. So that is the catch. Yeah, and there is a percentages also. Now, then you know that we have to have the international campus. We can boast of our campus, but we have to make the international campus. And research quality, as I said, that is collaboration and cooperation is the only way to make research, because citation per faculty, if you want to increase the citation per faculty, we have to have proper collaboration. So with these few remarks, I see that together we'll be able to make it, and will make India a preferred destination for our students. Thank you very much.
Great points about study in India program, and as you have mentioned that there is a challenge to recruit both the faculty and the students from outside India to our institutions. So let me reach out to Professor Shalini Gupta and ask her her views on this topic of cross-cultural collaborations.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. In fact, this is a very important topic we all know nowadays. And I would say that cross-cultural or global perspective, cross-cultural collaborations, it is nowadays a life skill. It is not only required, it is need of the hour. And we see that nowadays we need leaders who have the global perspective, who can think differently and who have the ability to think globally, or they know the culture of other people. I'm talking about not only globally, I'm talking about diversity of India too. When students, they know others' culture, their heritage, their history, their backgrounds, their personalities basically, they are able to handle people better. When they are able to handle people better, of course, they become better leaders. And nowadays, and moreover, they are at an advantage when they go for the workplaces. So cross-cultural and global collaborations and global perspective, they are very important. I have a few of the examples to quote. For example, they are the success stories I can talk about. We had a good group of South Sudan, Lesotho, Ivory Coast, Ghana, and all these students in the campus. And together with the Indian students, they could make a very beautiful group, research group and entrepreneurial group. And the final result was that the students, they could think differently, innovatively, leading to more of entrepreneurial ventures. Right now, Professor Rajat, he was talking about QS rankings, research, maybe patents, innovations, that we are not doing much nowadays in India. But I feel that all this is possible. And my students, the students, they were from tourism section, they could come up with beautiful ideas, beautiful softwares, and then they established one company. Now, my Indian counterpart students, and as well as students from different countries, they are working together in the entrepreneurial venture. So I mean that the cross-cultural collaborations, they really have an impact. And almost many of the institutions, many of the universities, they have international students. And even as per NEP 2020, the focus is on getting more of the international students and establishing facilitation centers in every of the institution. So this will help in overall perspective of thinking, change in thinking patterns will be better. I feel that this topic today is of importance. And we are from different parts of the country right now, and I would congratulate Mr. Ravi Gupta ji for holding such kind of conferences, because these are the platforms when we learn from each other. Again, it is, I would say, cross-sectional. It is collaborations. Toxa from Kanpur and Aizawl, and I'm from Punjab. We have different perspective again, and I'm able to take their point of view as well. And I will be, taking the notes that what we can do as the other related institutions they are doing. So this I will be able to change my perspective, and this helps. It goes down the line, and this helps in transforming the education and the thinking patterns basically. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Shalini, and I think you have very aptly described the importance and the need of having this cross-cultural collaboration. And let me, in the second round of question, ask each of the panelists, that what are the major challenges for building cross-cultural collaborations in the context of Indian universities? So let me request Professor Amitabh to kindly talk about this issue for next 5 minutes.
So, the challenges are manifold. I do not have to tell you that education is an integral part of the society. So, what you see in our universities is a reflection of our society in general. Uh, Before we even think about internationalization of our campuses, let's look at, are we even successful in nationalization of our campuses? I will, for obvious reasons, not name, but it is uh, like a hint to all of you that you go to most of the central universities of India websites, other than perhaps JNU, and you will find, I'm quoting, in a particular institute in the biology department, which I am familiar with, of 35 faculty members, 29 are graduates from the same department. Okay? So there is a massive scale parochialism that is rampant within our universities. And I will be the last person to be convinced that these departments could not manage to get high quality faculty from anywhere else other than their own graduates. Now, when the appointment is not purely on merit basis, then what happens is the quality is compromised. As Professor Rajat Gupta was talking about quality, quality does not come from thin air. Quality comes from merit, okay, and it has to reign supreme. So that is point number one, that uh, our academic institutions, they have to open up. Okay, I'm very proud of IIT Kanpur. It is, you look at the list of faculty members, you will see a true cosmopolitan reflection, and that's how it should be in the short term at least. Now coming to the internationalization, as both the other Professor Guptas mentioned, that it is important, and the government policies are encouraging, but we cannot look at faculty appointment, international faculty appointment, diverse from other aspects of academia. I'll give you a concrete example. Say if you are, see, like which kind of international faculty do you want? You do not necessarily want people who will come here to teach. Okay, teaching is important. I am not discounting it, but it is much more important to participate in very active research, so that there is a mixing of research ideas, research concepts, research ambitions, and that's how what will be eventually reflected in the teaching and quality. Now, unlike in the US, the system that I am very familiar with, in India, if you are of a foreign origin, you cannot apply for any of the government grants. So you have to have someone else as the primary investigator for any of your grant applications. Now, I do not have to tell you how this opens up scope of you scratch my back, I scratch yours type of situation. In the US, on the other hand, it is not like that. That if you have a faculty position anywhere in the country, you have just equal shot at writing an NIH or NSF grant. So this is something that has to be looked into. We cannot just say that come and join Indian institutions. We have to actually make it a even playing field, so that the international faculty does not feel discriminated against, because he or she will not come if his or her research ambitions have to be compromised to begin with. And then talking about international students, you survey and you will find that even if you normalize for populations of the destination countries, more of our students go to certain countries, UK, US, Germany nowadays, than some of the other global science and technology hubs, major hubs. Okay. The reason is that the students will choose those destinations where, along with academic excellence, there is a societal acceptance, and more importantly, a possibility of joining the workforce. Now, is that something that we are looking into? Are we opening up our job sectors across the globe? So these are some of the issues that I think needs to be dealt with before we can aspire to be a truly global destination.
Very important points, Professor Amitabh. I think you have highlighted this concept of employability in the local ecosystem. You talked about faculty recruitment have to be, are they, forget about being international, are they even national? So you are touching the roots of the whole issue, I suppose. Professor Rajat, over to you. That what are the challenges of building this type of a cross-cultural ecosystem? Although you have highlighted it in earlier presentation also, but if you can elaborate a bit of it. Professor Rajat, I think his connection has some issue, so let me request Professor Shalini to respond on this.
Yeah, in fact, when we talk about challenges, there are many. I'm from a private institution. I'm in private university under UTC only. But what I see and what I feel is that the finance is the major challenge. NITs, IITs, they have their funding from the government. They have the support, hundreds of the grants from the government side, when they can use those grants, use those fundings for the internationalization of their campuses. But when we talk about the state universities, private state universities, we lack those fundings. Rather, we are not going for those fundings. So when we talk about the research collaborations or getting the international faculty, then this is the first challenge. But I'm happy to share that how we are meeting out that challenge, because I'm very happy to share that our campus has got students from different countries, and nowadays, apart from getting the international students for the regular online offline classes, nowadays we are using technology or the online system for the faculty development programs, for the train the trainer programs, and this has helped us, especially this year. And before that also, we used to have the virtual training programs for our students, for the faculty. And this is how we could save on the cost, travel cost and accommodation cost and all. And finally, get the contribution from the international faculty. Or then the challenge was that we couldn't have the regular full-time faculties. So what we did, lot many Indians, they are abroad, they are in best of the universities. Then whenever they are in India, we keep connect with them and we request them to take that work as the visiting faculties and give their expertise. So this is how the challenges, we could meet out the challenges and could get the possible solutions. When we have the international students, sometimes rightly said by Dr. Amitabh, that societal acceptance is one part, but again, I'm happy to share that since we had we have diversity of students from India, different parts, maybe Kashmir, Northeast, Andhra. At the same time, students from different countries, they are from SAARC countries and African countries basically. But students, they could accept them because we trained them, we coached them mentally that there should not be any difficulty for the students. Then the challenge was societal acceptance. Then we made the student mentors, and it was a good experiment. The mentors, they could make the students their guests during the festival days. For example, October is full of festival for India, Diwali, Dussehra, and all those festivals, Navratras. So they could be the guests of our Indian students. This was a positive and good experiment. So societal acceptance we could generate, or we could train the students. But the challenge we could not make out so far was the workforce. Since we are in Punjab, we are near Chandigarh, in the rural sector. Students cannot work part-time because for them moving from one place 60 kilometers is little difficult. Then we had we tried for meeting out this challenge. We tried to give them the part-time assignments and create the entrepreneurial culture in the campus. We gave different spots, different sites to the students, national students as well as international students, and created the entrepreneurial village. In that village, so students, they do their part-time work, they earn through their entrepreneurial ventures. But I'm not saying that they are able to meet out their total expenses, but yes, we are giving them some opportunity to work from themselves. So this was a challenge, and this is how we took it. We could manage it. Then when we talk about nowadays it is the online system, we see that training the faculty for creating the online courses, it's a bit of a challenge, but can be taken up because we had given them many FTPs through our human resource development cell, how to create the online cohort classrooms, how to go further in creating their lesson plans, how to take care of the time zones, culture, language barriers, accent barriers. So we could talk about that, and we could train the faculty. So these are some of the challenges which are there, but we, as a success story, we are trying our level best to take up those challenges and create a positive kind of international culture. Yes, a long way to go ahead. Thank you.
Great points, Professor Shalini. You have highlighted both the challenges and you also highlighted the opportunities, that how in spite of the various constraints of not being enough what you call funded by the government by extra grants, or even in the being in a part of a rural area, your university is trying and achieving a lot of success in using the virtual environment in increasing collaborations. So let me request Professor Amitabh to talk about that. What are the initiatives which are being taken at IIT Kanpur in this direction of cross-cultural collaborations?
Actually, efforts are many. 2 or 3 years back, our institute started a new dean's office. It is Dean of International Affairs, and that office's singular responsibility is to forge collaborations, institute level collaboration, institute to university level collaboration with international partners. And I am very happy to inform you that now we have student exchange programs, uh, joint degree programs with New York University, with several universities in Australia, in France, with Rice University in the US, and many such universities. We have now established relationships. And, like, because for whatever reasons, majority of the faculty members, they join after a stint abroad. So they all have their friends and their colleagues circle internationally, uh, with whom there are multiple tiers of national, like formal and informal communication. I will just give you one fresh example from yesterday only. So I do teach a course. I am teaching a course this semester on molecular biology, and I have trained with some of the best young cadre of scientists globally. So it just occurred to me that one particular technology that is now making a lot of waves.
Yes.
हाँ तो बड़ा ज्वाइन कर लिया नेट आ गया हाँ
It just received the Nobel Prize called CRISPR-Cas mediated genome editing technique. And one of my friends is one of the world leaders in this application of this technology. So I simply called her up and asked whether she will be able to take one class for my students. And that's what happened yesterday. She took a class for my students, and it was attended not only by my class students, by my course students, but also students who are from outside of the course and outside of the institution. And call it mental block or whatever, before this pandemic and lockdown, in the last 13 years, I have never thought of utilizing this resource that I have access to for teaching in India. Right now, we know that because that virtual interactions has been part of the norm, and it is well accepted. Therefore, uh, if we reach out, I am pretty sure that we will be able to internationalize, at least virtually, and at least in the teaching sector. Okay, so and that is happening. Like, I now see loads of emails in the faculty mailing list where a lecture or a course is being offered by a very celebrated international speaker almost every day. Okay, so therefore I'll go back and emphasize the same thing again, that yes, institution level collaborations may take a little longer, because if the collaborating institute that you are trying to reach out to uh, is of a certain caliber, they will like to collaborate with institutions that have name recognition. So therefore, to attain that level, minimally what we should start with is a recruitment of faculty who are absolutely top quality, and nowadays there is no dearth of it because of the international economic slowdown. Many good scientists and like academics of Indian origin are trying to come back home. So if we roll out the red carpet for them, recruit strictly based on merit, these people will not only bring in culture but also a sphere of influence that can help, and that will certainly help in internationalization of our campuses.
Great point, Professor Amitav, and thanks for highlighting this fact that uh, before this COVID, most of us were not thinking about using virtual platforms for usage in the classroom as we are thinking now. And thanks for that. So we have our speaker, Professor Rajat Gupta, on the screen again, who is a director of NIT, NIT as well. So, Professor Rajat, if you can talk about that, in spite of the constraints of whatever we have, what are the ways in which NIT Agile is uh, working on this issue of cross-cultural collaboration?
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. In between, I was off because of internet issue, and that is the reality of our country. Okay, still there is a difference between India and Bharat. I am from Bharat. Anyway, that bridging the digital gap, yeah, that's that. Now you see that I could hear Professor Amitav Bandyopadhyay at the last part, and I cannot agree more than what he said. Now, before coming to your point, I just want to say that before going for internationalization, what he says is that go for the nationalization first. And that is very, very important. Why Dr. Ravi and Madam also will agree that we have a nature of working in silos. We, the teachers, have the nature to work in silos. So we have to break this, that we have to work with cooperation and collaboration. You see that for Government of India, it is not possible to provide all the resources to a particular institute. The other day that I was talking to another forum is that there should be resource sharing. Now, as you said for NITs, there are 8 NITs in the Northeast zone. There are 31 NITs in the country plus 1 IAST Shibpur. So in the Northeast itself, there are 8 NITs. Now, you see that it is not possible for the government to keep all the resources to a particular institute. So need of the hour is that the collaboration and cooperation in terms of human resources, in terms of material resources. Now, if I say human resources, you see that a particular institute, say Professor Amitav Bandyopadhyay may be expert in a particular area. So I can utilize Professor Bandyopadhyay for the growth of my students, virtually or otherwise. COVID has taught us that there is no geographical barrier. What Professor Bandyopadhyay said that he is utilizing some faculties. I'm also utilizing some faculties who are abroad and they are taking our classes. So this added value to the education system. So there is a need, urgent need to come out of the silos and do collaboration. And in terms of human resources, say in emerging areas, say artificial intelligence. I do not have any expertise in artificial intelligence in my institute. But IIT Bombay, or maybe for that matter, if I confine to Eastern Zone, there are some good institutes, IIT Kharagpur, IIT Shibpur, Jadavpur University, and there are some experts in the artificial intelligence or IoT or big data. I can utilize their services, and I can allow my students to take a program of AI of Jadavpur University, and whatever the credits he will earn, this should be transferred to my education system to award him the degree. So there should be a close liaising among the institutes. Since India is such a big country, we can make zone-wise, Eastern Zone, Western Zone, Southern Zone, something like that. So that is one thing. Secondly, the material resources. NIT Mizoram, you may be surprised to know that we have got the 3D printer. We have got supersonic wind tunnel. Professor Bandyopadhyay will accept that IIT Kanpur is also a supersonic wind tunnel. I am from IIT Delhi. Okay, did not have the at that time did not have the superseding wind tunnel, but we have the superseding wind tunnel. How many of us of the NIT system know that NIT Mizoram has a superseding wind tunnel? So this is the need that yes, material resources also to be utilized among the institutes, and the mindset of our mindset should be changed. That is the need. That mindset should be changed, that we should welcome with an open heart that yes, knowledge is not a geographical barrier. And second principle is that the more you distribute the knowledge, the more knowledgeable you become. Thank you.
So, Professor Rajat, thanks for highlighting this aspect of collaboration inside India itself. So here is a classic session where we have an IIT, we have an NIT, and we have a private university. So all three of them represent different ecosystems. IIT have their own ecosystem, NIT has its own ecosystem, and private universities are of course sitting in a different ecosystem. So if like in the last round of this the questions, and I will like a request for brief remarks from each of the panel, that how we can increase collaborations between IITs, NIT, and private universities and private colleges. So let me request to start with Dr. Shalini. That do you think that there is a need of a collaboration, and if yes, that what are the areas in which these collaborations can happen?
Rightly said that there is a need of collaboration. We all are, whether we are IITs, NITs, public universities, private universities, everybody has their own strength, maybe some weak areas too. Weak means where they need collaboration from others. But we are working differently, silently, and in isolation. There is dire need of collaboration. Collaboration can be material collaboration, and it can be within the, for example, I'm in Punjab, so within Punjab we can move around, or nearby Haryana or the nearby states. But when we talk about virtual or human resource collaborations, it is very much possible. For example, I will request Professor Rajat and Professor Amitabh that whether we can collaborate with you for your human resource. We can give our human resource for example, leadership programs, entrepreneurial programs, or maybe we are good in incubation or setting up the incubation center. If there is need, we can always collaborate. We can work on that. But at the same time, we are missing AI. So we have faculty, but we are missing specialization or specialized AI. Or we are missing some right now 3D printing and all those areas, all the latest technologies. So we would be able to connect to you if it is convenient. But the mindset is to be changed. For example, I tried reaching a few of the state universities in Punjab, but the mindset of the vice chancellor is that they cannot share their labs even at a cost. So that was really disheartening to understand why the resources which are there, maybe in any of the institution, they cannot be shared with others. Because basically, we all leaders are for the development and dissemination of education and creating better teachers, better educators, better students, better leaders. But this is not happening. But I'm very happy that in this forum, in this platform, we are positive for collaboration. And I accept that if something is needed from our side, I'll be very happy to share with. I'll be very happy to collaborate, and I need your sharing your expertise for our students and faculty. So I'll request Professor Rajat and Amitabh that wherever you can give us your expertise, we'll be very happy to take it, because it is finally for the development of education.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a need of the hour. Absolutely.
Actually, the previous session was about having a purpose mindset. That instead of like thinking about what we need to become, we want to become a doctor or engineer or something else. We need to find remember that what is the purpose we have. So as Dr. Shalini highlighted that our purpose as education leaders is to actually create more education, help the education ecosystem. So requesting Professor Amitabh to respond and on how we can engage collaboration inside India itself, which has been a very pertinent issue. Yeah.
Yep. You know, as I started in the beginning, that our academic institutions are not divorced from our society. So whatever you see in the society at large is exactly the same in the academic institutions as well. We are, for some strange reason, extremely possessive about our research infrastructure, which is funded by the taxpayers. Okay, and I really appreciate the effort of the current government, uh, that it has been emphasized in no uncertain terms that research infrastructure has to be shared. And I'm sure Professor Gupta also knows a platform has been created where every institution is supposed to list their equipment and the email ID, etc., so that anybody from any corner of the country can request and get access. The system is still not working. The other day, one of the government officers contacted me saying that we created this system, but it is not working. What can be done? Um, the answer is fairly straightforward, that there has to be a time bound response system. If the response does not come from the facility manager, then within 3 days it should be escalated to the head of the department, and after that it should be escalated to the vice chancellor. I'm sorry, like we have to be really forced to fall in line. That's sad, but that's the reality, that nobody has the right to hold equipment, research infrastructure from rest of the country. And this can be, I can tell you with full confidence that a good 50% of our equipment has less than 30% occupancy rate, meaning 70% of the time the equipment are not used. And this is the reason why at IIT Kanpur we have started, like when we started our incubator, we have opened it up for our incubated companies as well. So you can imagine that if you are a company incubated at IIT Kanpur, you have access to more than 1,000 crore rupee of research infrastructure which has been built over last 60 years. Because at least someone will be using it, and from the user fee you can maintain a technician 24/7, maximize the utilization of infrastructure that has been, like we cannot run away from the fact that we are a poor country, and therefore resources must be shared if we want to maximize. That is one aspect. The other aspect is that uh, I have received requests from people for use of research infrastructure. And then the next question the person asks is that kindly let me know what kind of experiments I should use this infrastructure for. And that is a big no. Like research infrastructure is not toys. Okay, like you have to have a research objective. You know exactly which equipment you need for what purpose, and you approach, and it should be facilitated. So it has to be from both sides. That is very critical. I will just cite one example for you, and I know my colleagues at IGIB, they will blush, but there is a particular kind of microscopy I needed, and in the whole country there are only two places that is there. One is in Pune and other is in IGIB Delhi. I wrote an email to, because I know the director of IGIB, so I wrote to him to point me to the right person. And believe me, within half an hour, I got the invitation to come and use that equipment next day. That's how it should be. Like, I'm not saying that next day part, but I'm saying that every institution must have this open-minded approach towards national resources. That's it.
Great points, Professor Amitabh. So we are at the end of the session, and I will request each of the speakers to just give a closing remarks very briefly in one or two lines each. What are the conclusions and the way forward? So requesting, starting with Professor Rajita Gupta, if you can.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ravi. Thank you very much. A very lively discussion. I also learned so many things from all of you. And you see that, yeah, I'm very much optimistic. Yes, that collaboration is going on. It's not that it's not happening. It's not that knowledge is not shared. It's not that materials or equipments are not shared. But we have to enhance the activities. That is the issue. And together, that is the most important part. Together, we can make it with a positive mindset. You see, you all three are standing here, you four, all have the urge to do collaboration. So we have the positive mindsets. The vibe should be there. And together we'll definitely make it. In the new education policy also, is allowed to 100 universities to set up in India. And Indian universities can also be set up in the abroad. You see that we can take the full advantage of the new education policy also. And again, in order to conclude, I said that together we'll make India a preferred destination for international students and faculty. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And requesting Dr. Shalini to give your closing remarks very briefly. You're not audible, Professor Shalini. I think you are on mute, I suppose. Just check.
Yeah, done. Fine. So I will say one line only, that with the positive mindset, with the positive collaborations, we will grow. And as an educator, I would say that this is the need of the hour, and we have to go further on this. Thank you so much for providing this platform.
Thank you, Professor Shalini, for joining us. And Professor Amitabh, requesting you for closing remarks.
I share the optimism of both my colleagues, academic colleagues, and the only thing I would add is that it is merit, and merit alone. Nothing else can be decided in academia. The moment we subscribe to this philosophy, nationalization and internationalization will happen automatically.
Fantastic. So on behalf of the 17th World Education Summit and Elite Media, I thank all our speakers, eminent speakers. I think each of you have brought so much of knowledge in this session. This was amazing, so much of learning, and thank you, and namaste to each of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Namaste to all of you.
Yeah.